Hello my friends, in this video we will take a look at 3 wide-angle lenses made by Sigma that you can use with your Sony APS-C camera, the Sigma 16mm F1.4 DC DN, Sigma 19mm F2.8 DN, and Sigma 18-35mm F1.8 DC HSM with MC11 adapter. Sigma is at the moment definitely my most favorite manufacturer of lenses for E-mount, since they make some of the very few APS-C lenses that can fully utilize capabilities of that excellent 24 megapixel sensor in A6000 series cameras. Here we have two native wide-angle E-mount lenses, the new Sigma 16mm F1.4 and older 19mm F2.8 released in 2013. I think that I can say legendary 18-35mm F1.8 DC HSM is lens made for DSLRs that can be used with adapter on mirrorless cameras, and in this video I will try to help you decide which of these lenses is the best one for you. I've also made individual reviews of these lenses where I go deeper into the details. For current pricing there are links in the description. Regarding the focal lengths, Sigma 16mm F1.8 at 24mm full frame equivalent is probably the best choice for landscapes, wide-angle street photography, and it could also be wide enough for vlogging. For all-round use it is probably a bit too wide unless you really like shooting wide angle like I do. Something around 30mm full frame equivalent would probably be more suitable for all-round use. 19mm f2.8 at 28.5mm full frame equivalent can be used as an all-round lens. It is still pretty wide, so it is usable for landscapes. This focal length is a bit more suitable for street photography. 18-35mm provides full frame equivalent focal range from 27 to 52.5mm, so it is more versatile of course, and it is good for landscapes and street photography as well. Also wedding photographers often use this lens, so it is basically suitable for everything where wide angle to standard focal length range is needed. In terms of image quality, Sigma 18-35mm f1.8 is known to be extremely sharp. Together with longer version, the 50-100mm f1.8, it is basically the sharpest zoom lens for crop sensors. It is basically like having collection of prime lenses from 18-35mm. It is very sharp right from f1.8. The sharpest point is around f4, but from f1.8 to f8 the sharpness is very consistent, the differences are impossible to see in real life shooting, and the sharpness is also uniform across the whole focal range. Color reproduction and contrast are excellent as well. There is very little amount of distortion that can be fixed in post or in camera. Sigma 16mm f1.4 is very similar in optical characteristics. The sharpness is excellent, although you need to stop it down to about f8 if you really want excellent sharpness. At f5.6 it is extremely sharp, but also at f1.4 the sharpness is perfectly usable. Even at f1.4 I can still say that it is pretty sharp lens. It is just that when stopped down it is extremely sharp, so it looks a bit soft at f1.4 in comparison. What surprised me is the corner sharpness. At f1.4 that is actually very good, despite that this lens is made to use in-camera lens corrections for distortion. There is significant amount of distortion as I have shown in the full review, and there is also significant amount of chromatic aberration at wider apertures, but that can be very effectively fixed in post or in camera, and there is basically no reason to be concerned about that. For maximal contrast, it also needs to be stopped down to about f2.8, and the color reproduction also seems to be very good, although the weather was rather bad, so I don't have too many nice samples. 19mm f2.8 needs to be stopped down for maximal sharpness. Again, for use on the internet it is just fine at f2.8, but at f5.6 it is very sharp. It is actually very close to Sigma 18-35mm at f5.6 in the center. In the corners it is a bit softer, but it is still very good. It is also very decent at other optical characteristics, even though the corner sharpness doesn't match the other two. But I have actually taken some of my best landscape photos with this lens and the results are good. So overall I definitely do like image quality of this lens as well. Regarding the build quality, all three lenses are generally very well made. Build quality of 16mm f1.4 is excellent, nothing to complain about. Construction is metal up to the rubberized ring, only the front part is made of plastics. It feels really solid, it weighs about 400 grams, which is alright considering that this is wide angle lens with very wide aperture. It is the only one with weather sealing out of these lenses. I'm not sure to what degree it is weather sealed, but there is rubber gasket around the mount. Out of the lenses with focus by wire system, it may be the best one in my opinion for manual focusing. Both resistance and travel of the ring make it very easy to use. Sigma 18-35mm f1.8 is very well made as well. It is mostly made of metal, so it is pretty heavy, but again that is to be expected. It is a zoom lens with very wide f1.8 aperture, but with MC11 on Sony mirrorless cameras it is not very well balanced, and ergonomics of that combination are not the best. Both zoom ring and focusing ring are very smooth. This lens uses mechanical focusing and it also feels good with right amount of resistance. So this lens is highly suitable for manual focusing and zooming in video as well. And here you can also switch between manual focus and autofocus with a toggle on the lens. 19mm f2.8 is a bit behind in terms of build quality. It is not bad at all, it just doesn't feel as good as two other lenses. It is mostly made of plastics. I'm not sure whether the rear part is plastic or metal. The focusing ring on this lens is smooth with gloss finish without any grooves. Aesthetically it looks good in my opinion when it is clean, but with fingerprints it looks rather bad. This is typical of focus by wire ring without any feel at all. It is very easy to turn but still usable, although this is not the best lens for manual focusing. There is fortunately metal mount on all of the three lenses. 19mm f2.8 is a very small lens as you can see, so it is definitely a travel friendly. Regarding the autofocus on 16mm f1.4, it is excellent, very fast and reliable, and it is just as good as with native Sony lenses. Even at f1.4, where it has to find that narrow area where it needs to focus, it is still very good, no complaints. On 18-35mm f1.8 with MC11, the autofocus looks very natural. It is still very fast, maybe not quite as fast as with native lens, but in my experience it is 100% reliable. On 19mm f2.8 the autofocus is quite tricky. The best mode to use is autofocus continuous and wide area, but it will only use 9 central points in this mode. It seems that this is the only mode where it can use phase detection. In other modes it only uses contrast detection. You can also use autofocus single. It is much smaller, but at least it works. In video the problem is that even when nothing in the frame changes, it does this kind of pulsing, which is very unpleasant, and that means that for the video the manual focusing is a safer option. Sigma 60mm f1.4 is excellent wide angle lens overall. That f1.4 aperture gives it a lot of flexibility. It is excellent for low light shooting, for blurring the background even at that wide angle, and the overall theme of this lens is that it gives you full frame results while shooting with APS-C camera. It is a bit of a specialized lens since it is a wide angle lens, but people are generally interested in this lens, and I guess that this will be one of my most used lenses in 2018. Sigma 18-35 f1.8 and Sigma MC11 is my most favorite combination for product photography and product reviews, and also for all-round use. Sharpness and optical qualities of 18-35 makes it possible to fully utilize potential of that great 24 megapixel sensor in Sony A6500 for example. Autofocus with MC11 works very well, but it has some limitations like the handling, loud focusing mode, short focal range and lack of weather sealing, so it might not be for everyone, but when it comes down to just delivering results, this lens will not disappoint. Sigma 19mm f2.8 is optically a bit behind the other two lenses. It is an older construction, the corners are a bit softer. The build quality is also a bit behind, but it is still good. And this lens is also much cheaper than the other two. And I've taken some of my best pictures with this lens. I don't use it that much anymore because of that autofocus. But if you want small and still very capable lens with that focal length for stills, it is a good choice. Also, an interesting question is whether you need Sigma 16mm f1.4 if you already have 18-35mm f1.8. I can't really answer that for everyone, but it will give you similar image quality at wider angle. It is much smaller and more portable. You can use it for things like vlogging or for shooting stars, where 18-35 wouldn't be the most suitable. So I don't really know if you need it, but you probably want it. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope that you liked this video and that you found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.